And we search the world because good ideas are to be found anywhere, from any scientist in any nations, and get millions of pounds of downstream funding. This is, for us, a success. Every pound that we can deploy in research funding across the world is raised from the general public. You're responsible for the whole organisation and a whole bunch of functions that you have no technical expertise in whatsoever.
Welcome to Jojo's Cross Borders. Today we have the CEO Helen Rippon from Worldwide Cancer Research. So let's hear what this charity about and then her story, how to bring this charity to the world. Thank you so much, Helen, for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
Let us know what this charity about and who are you in this charity except the title.
So let's start with the charity Worldwide Cancer Research. So this is a charity that was founded getting on for 50 years ago by a pioneering scientist, a chap called Colin Thompson. And he, back in the sort of 1960s and 1970s, was using supercomputers to try and design cancer drugs. He was a theoretical chemist. And he believed that there was a place in the funding ecosystem for science for a funder that was really willing to take risks on things that were really innovative, on brand new ideas, maybe a bit maverick, maybe a bit left field. But he believed that this was the key to tackling cancer, being brave in the research that we fund. And so he founded this charity. So fast forward to today, that's what we do. That's still what we do. That is our core and our DNA as an organisation. And we search the world because good ideas are to be found anywhere, from any scientist in any nation. So we want to look out there globally for ideas that, yes, they're risky. Yes, they're very new. Maybe they challenge dogma or the established wisdom. But if they were right, they could do something transformational. And we fund so this is what we call discovery science, truly discovery science, blue skies research. And it's a lot of what we fund is really is to understand the nuts and bolts, the mechanisms of why cancer happens, how it develops, how it progresses, how it spreads. And then how can we be innovative in turning that knowledge into solutions?
So basically you are a combination of a classic traditional research methods plus innovative ideas to conquer this cancer research, right?
Exactly. And the way that the analogy that I often use to people in the business world is think of us like business angels, seed funders, early stage venture capital. Just getting something off the ground. And the mechanism that we use is to give scientists 3 years of money, a 3-year grant, sort of £250,000-ish, to explore their idea, to develop proof of concept. Does this have merit, this idea? And if it does, we give them the time and the space and the money to generate enough pilot data that they could then go to a bigger funder and get millions of pounds of downstream funding. This is, for us, a success, is if they leverage more money.
Wow, okay, so that's what I wanted to ask you, because you grab any innovative ideas, that means long term.
Yes.
Because from a seed, from the idea to generate it, to develop as a mature methods to cure the cancer, that take ages.
Decades.
So that means your charity, like a seed is, for the preliminary stage.
That's right.
No pressure, provided the scientists the $250,000.
$250,000, yeah.
For 3 years.
For 3 years.
Altogether, or just each year you get?
Altogether. So that you can employ, a student or a scientist to work specifically on the project, and it would provide the sort of consumables funding to do the research. So, I mean, it sounds like an awful lot of money, but in research terms, it's not an awful lot. But it's enough to establish enough preliminary and pilot data to prove the point, right?
Yeah.
That this is worth further investment. But it does, you're right, it takes decades. And this is I think it's one of the reasons it can be a bit challenging for a funder because, of course, you want to show impact. You want to show we've got something new to patients. But for us, that can take 15, 20 years and a lot more funding and a lot more partners down the line. Nevertheless, if you don't start, you never get to a result.
Yeah. But once you start, but what is your... So I guess a lot of scientists get your first round seeded funding, but what's the percentage for your scientists can go to the second round to get bigger funding?
So from the data that we have, and we've been back to ask them, scientists that we funded over the last 20, 25 years, so it's about 60% get
As ratios
more
are
funding.
very high.
So it's pretty high. So I think we are pretty good at choosing where to place our bets. And I can talk a bit later about how
you select
we
it.
do that.
Yeah, can we talk about now?
Sure.
Because like people were saying that, okay, how can I apply? I mean, this is I want to put in a keyword, it's a worldwide cancer research. So we talk about audience from all of the world, but UK, including UK, but how they can apply, what they need to present it to you, that not you and your organization, that's fit into the criteria, like innovative cancer research methods.
So every year we issue like an open call for funding. So
what time?
So this is, we are just about to open one now actually. So it's March, April.
For 2 months, yeah. To the world.
To the world, right. So scientists across the world, send us your ideas. That is just essentially what we ask. We don't prioritize particular cancers. We don't prioritize particular fields or types of research because that is constraining, right, for innovation. So it's an open call. If you're working on cancer or even cancer adjacent, so we have immunologists apply, we have developmental biologists apply who are saying, well, I think there is something in the research that I'm doing in this field that actually could apply to cancer. So we put out this open call. And we ask scientists to submit an application. There's an application form on our website and write up a project plan and essentially pitches their great idea in about 8 pages of a project plan and tell us a bit about who they are and who would be working on the project and what the budget looks like and all of that. So it's sort of a business plan in a way, but for a scientific project. The thing that they need to nail, and my bit of advice for anybody watching who's thinking, oh, I could apply for that, nail the innovation part. Tell us why it's innovative. That's the first thing we sift on. So we would get, usually in our grant round, about 500 applications. We need to sift that down to the 25 or 30 that we can afford to fund. I wish it were more, but that's reality. So the first sift is this really new? Is it bold? Could it transform something if they are right? Even if that transformation might take 20 years, that's fine. So that would be my piece of advice to any scientists watching, is really spell out why it's innovative and what it could achieve.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense because you only afford 0.5% of the applicants. Yeah.
Our funding rate is sort of 5-6%.
Oh, 5 to 6.
Yeah,
5 to
usually,
6.
which is not high. So it's an extremely competitive process.
Yeah. So all of like those 20 or 30 each years, where they come from? I mean, can you give me an idea about the majority from UK or American, or what is the geography? Geographic, right?
Yes. Yeah. So typically we would get applications from 40-ish countries, and typically we would fund in every individual round, maybe about 10 or 11 different countries. In our portfolio at the moment, I think we're spread across 20. Our funding geography tends to map with where the most research active countries are. So it's probably the places you would expect. So Northern Europe, so yes, UK, also Southern Europe, Italy and Spain tend to get a lot of funding. The Netherlands do really well in our grant round, typically. We increasingly fund in the States. I think there are some funding pressures for scientists in the States now, so we see more from them. Also in Canada, because we have a research partnership with a major funder there. Israel tends to apply quite a lot, and also Australia. So this would be our biggest footprint.
I didn't hear anything from Asia.
No.
Sorry. I mean...
No, you didn't.
It's just because there's no applicants from there? Or...
Very few. Very few. So,
I wonder why? Because they don't know this? Or not because you don't provide this support to the Asian applicants, that's
absolutely.
For sure, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that because they don't aware of this funding.
I suspect that they don't know. So I did ask the team to just pull together some statistics, and yes, we would see in a typical grant round maybe 10 applications from Southeast Asia tops. So we just don't see very much, and so because of that we funded comparatively little, mostly in Hong Kong, a couple in Singapore, I think one in India, but just really not a lot because we don't see a lot. And this is curious, right? Because China, Japan, Singapore particularly, increasingly India, have a really good base of researchers. They have some really good institutions, really good research infrastructure, bright people doing good work.
Yeah.
And we don't see it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're hoping this video, this conversation will reach out to the audience from Southeast Asia. So here, there's no language barrier as long as your project is innovative, and then so they can all eligible to apply.
Certainly. I mean, our applications are in English because the language of science is English. So maybe there's a bit of a language barrier thing. I'd like to hope we can cut through that. But no, we are keen to see applications and ideas from as many different people as possible and different perspectives, right?
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And then so I want to ask you another perspective about where this fund is from then. So yeah, I mean, who is the donor?
Where does the money come from?
Where does the money come from?
Yeah.
And then to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are an entirely fundraising charity. So every pound that we can deploy in research funding across the world is raised from the general public. Most of our income comes from an awful lot of people giving us a small amount of money regularly. So it's mostly in the UK. People giving direct debits, £10 a month, £20 a month from their wage, from their bank account. Or we have a lottery and a prize draw program, or people just playing these games. Naturally, as a cancer charity, we also get quite a lot of gifts in wills when people have passed away and in memory of people, or perhaps because they themselves have died of cancer and they wish to leave a legacy of a hope for the future, I think. And that people don't have to experience what they have. So gifts in wills is always a source of income, of funding for cancer charities. And then there's bits and pieces, like we were talking before this interview about the London Marathon. So people run events for us and do crazy challenges and raise money from their family and friends.
Individuals are also donating, right?
So individuals, we have some corporate partnerships. But ultimately, it's people. It's people moved to
people with
to
a good
give.
Heart. People with a good heart want to help in the world, right?
Exactly that.
Giving back.
And I think who believe in, what I think about our charitable purpose is people get it, right? They understand it. And it's quite inspiring, I think, the idea of innovating and doing something new and a bit challenging and believing. I think we all have to believe a bit that the world can change.
The world is changing. Yeah. The technology is changing. I mean, the cancer is also changing.
Very much.
And then, so we have to matching up, chasing the changes.
And speed it up.
Yeah. So Helen, as I know you are a executive coach as me. That's how we met. And then, so tell me more about your challenges as a CEO in this organization. I know you've been through quite a lot.
Yes.
I know, provided funds is not easy. It's not as easy as we thought. Tell us more about that.
So it would be lovely if every charity out there with a really, really good cause, that good cause was enough to just bring them money easily, but that's not the case.
No.
So I've been chief executive now for 10 years. Prior to that, I was an internal promotion. I was director of research. So I'm a scientist by background. When I became chief executive, what became quickly apparent was that the charity was under some significant financial pressure. So we commit to long-term funding, so three-year grants. So we had quite a lot of liabilities, quite a lot of commitments to funding research that year and also in future years. But what we were seeing was that our income was declining. So, rising expenditure, declining income. This is not a pretty picture, and at some point you're going to crash. So that was the situation I was faced with as a brand new chief executive. So
when was that? 10 years ago?
10 years ago.
Yeah. How did you turn around?
So I would really like to say that there was some wonderful plan that I formulated and then just executed, but that is not actually how it happened. I think there was a process of making what I would call the next best decision for the organisation to move it in the right place. But the catalyst for all of that change, and I fundamentally believe that every charity has to do this, is to focus and reconnect with our purpose. Like, you have to focus on your purpose. What do you do that's different to everyone else? And if you disappeared, what would change? Like, why would that make a difference? So everything in the charity sector has to start with, what difference do we make and why? So I would say that the start of all of the business change that has to happen about branding and structure and strategy and location and all of those operating models, all of that began with going, why are we here? And what I think had perhaps happened over the year, and I'm very conscious here of not wanting to criticise the people that came before me, because we all have challenges as leaders. But what I think had happened is we'd slightly diluted the charitable purpose. So we were funding really great research, but perhaps that focus on innovation had slightly been lost. So I would say my job, particularly in that first year or two, was to pull us back. Okay, no, we are about innovation. We are about brand new, not just solid, good science, right? So let's come back to that. And everything then in a charity flows from being clear about what you're here to do. So not just your income generation, right? Because this is the way that people are inspired and motivated to give, but also things like your internal culture. So if you are, as an organisation, seeking to be creative and bold and entrepreneurial and quite spirited in your belief and optimistic, how does that then play out into the people you want to recruit and the culture that you have internally? So that's where it started, purpose. But then there was all of the things like, does the brand work for that purpose? Does the name work for that purpose? Where does the charity need to be located to be able to recruit the people that it needs? All of those very practical decisions that have to happen when you're building an organisation.
Oh, well, I can see that fundamentally you glue every nouns together, which is a business plan, the methods, the branding, but underpins the purpose, the mission there.
Yes, always the mission.
Always the mission and heart. So basically you emphasize the innovative.
Yes.
Besides the business plan.
Yeah, exactly that. Because if you can nail...
That's the first step.
Your purpose.
Yeah.
It's the first step. And nothing else happens, I think.
And then the later, the detail of the step by step is coming naturally, right?
It is. And you still, I think, not everyone will agree with me here, but in some ways, the days of having a written sort of quite detailed 5-year strategy, I feel like we've moved past that because the world is volatile, the world is unpredictable. And so my philosophy as a leader has been more about, let's understand where we want to head, the direction of travel and the ambition, the scale of ambition that we have. And let's understand who we are as an organisation. And then when you're assessing what is the next best thing to do, to invest in, or maybe we need to look at structure and people and skills and capabilities, you ask yourself, well, does it take us towards that goal? And does culturally this feel like the sort of thing that we do as an organisation? And I think if you can, I think it's okay to make business decisions sort of on that basis without having some
Basic plan.
quite formulate plan. Now, there are people who would profoundly disagree with me there, but so far it's worked for us.
I see what you mean. Like when there's a lot of investors who will say, let me see your business plan. The plan is the steps you can get through. But the core is, what is your mission? What's the core value?
It is. And then there's an element, I think, for a charity, and maybe this is where we differ a bit from the commercial world, because sales is not the same as fundraising, in my opinion. So there is an element of get your purpose out there. Set out your stall. This is what we're here from, and see who that resonates with. And then, so we have corporate partnerships at the moment with partners who came to us because they saw us and said, oh, that works for our business. We're a global business, you're a global charity. We have some strategic alignment in terms of innovation and entrepreneurialism. Like, we talk a similar language, and so this works. It's a nice
because
fit.
that's your mission is aligned with each other.
Yeah.
So maybe some of our audience might be saying that's what we talk about is too abstract. Can you put it into an example, like a case study, like you challenge with your team? With the purpose behind.
A case study with the team or with our science, because I can bring something to life with
your core.
So a science, so core purpose, right? So I will tell you a bit about a project that we funded a few years ago, over a decade ago now. So we funded an amazing scientist called Laura Suchek, who's based in Spain. And she came to us with a project that had received almost universal skepticism from the scientific community. So she believed that she had a way to create a cancer drug that would be what we'd call a pan-cancer drug. So a drug that could work against many different types of cancers. And this is because she was targeting a really central mechanism of cell division, right? Cancer cells have to divide fast, so they have to use this mechanism. But the thing is, healthy cells do it too. So people were like, okay, you can target this protein. It happens to be called MYC. That's not really important, but you can target this, but the drug will be horribly toxic. Also, it's a really difficult mechanism to target in cells. You'll never make it work. That is the message she got. You will never make this work.
Wow.
And she couldn't find funding. So she came to us, and actually that's the kind of stuff we love, right? Because, okay, the scientific community might be right, and maybe she wasn't going to make it work, but I suppose coming back to a coaching question that we might ask is, but what if it did work? What if? So we gave her the money, and this was 2013, if I remember correctly. By 2014, she had enough positive data to show that this was going to work, that she spun out a company called PeptoMyc and became chief executive of a company as well as an academic scientist. That company has made this thing into a drug. They are well into clinical trials now in bone cancer, a rare form of bone cancer that predominantly affects children, and pancreatic cancer, which has almost no effective treatment options at all. And so this for us is a really great example of taking a gamble on something that could be transformational. So this drug, if there's a way to go with later stage clinical trials, but if it works, this is a drug that could work for many, many, many different types of cancers. And it started with us just going, okay, we give it a go. And that's the sort of ethos that we really want to have as an organisation, and we want to look for those gems also everywhere else. bringing that in internally. So let's come back to sort of talking about kind of running an organization, how you bring that spirit
as a leader,
and into leadership. So one of the things that we have been embarking on for the last few years is really trying to learn from the commercial world. So I just said that sales is fundraising, and I don't think it's the same thing, but I think we can be inspired by how businesses sell. Right, so we have a digital development program. Everybody has a digital development program naturally, but we want to really understand how, in the commercial world, customer journeys work, customer service works. How do you employ smart use of data and insight into how your customers are behaving, and how can we take that understanding and apply it to, or how can we understand what resonates with our supporters? So, we have a lot of people who give us, bits of money every month, and there's a lot of them. So
that's your customers, right?
These are our customers, really. These are the people that we're serving effectively with our charitable mission. So we are trying to, as a relatively small organisation, there's only 50 of us, really understand what little gems can we take from the commercial world. And we can't probably take them directly. We don't sell products. It's not the same thing. It's not the same transaction. But how can we understand how to serve our Cure Starter community better? And that's what we call our supporters, by using the techniques of the commercial world. So this would be an example for me of how we're trying to bring that spirit of entrepreneurialism. Now, of course, with supporter money, you have to be calculated about the risks that you take, right? We have to be responsible stewards of supporter money. If it doesn't go to research and it's going on to investment and fundraising, those risks have to be very well calculated. But I believe that's how we fit the charity out to exist for another 50 years, because we need to be here for as long as cancer is a problem. So sustainability is really important. And hopefully, with luck, one day we will do ourselves out of business and we will be no longer needed.
Hopefully. But what you're just saying is also from your management style, I can also see the innovative here. Because you say that's like a charity. You just mentioned that it's not sales, but actually you act like not only sales, but customer service as well.
Yeah.
So you combine them together, looking after your customer, who is the donor, individual and organization. So that's your innovative, like in your leadership, I can see.
Oh, thank you. As I said, I started as a scientist, so I suppose where that has followed through into my leadership is a concept of test and learn, pilot, gather data, do experiments.
Yes, as you say data, I forgot to mention you're also using the commercial, like technologies, everything collected like a scientist data talk.
Yes.
And then plus that you are working your way, building based upon this data.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
That's amazing. What do you think, like as a CEO, what's the coaching skill adding the value to your day-to-day work?
What is the
coaching?
The coaching skills.
Because we both graduated from Miller Campbell. I know
a wonderful, wonderful course of study. And I was very fortunate to win a scholarship. So they offer a scholarship to charity sector leaders every year.
For them,
which is wonderful, because otherwise we would not be able to access training like that at all.
But what is the benefits after your training to be a coach?
So the benefits
to your organization.
And I'm interested in whether you felt this too, Jojo, but it's the skill of being non-directive, isn't it? Because you come up through your career path and you become, for me, I was an expert in research funding and programs of research and developing funding strategy and policy and all of that stuff. So you become an expert. And so it is very easy to slip into a feeling of, well, I must always have the answers. And when somebody asks me a question, I must give them the answer. Now, one of the for me, quite shocking changes when I stepped up to chief executive. And honestly, if I'd have thought about it properly in advance, I would have seen this coming. But all of a sudden, you become a generalist again. Because you're responsible for the whole organisation and a whole bunch of functions that you have no technical expertise in whatsoever. So all of a sudden, as a chief executive, you're in a position of, well, I don't have the answers actually to, I don't understand marketing or brand or customer service or, the nuts and bolts of our finance system. So you have to rely on the advice of other people. And so I think what the coaching training has really helped me hone even further is asking questions, not feeling so much pressure to have the solution, and to trust that the really, really smart people in our organisation, and they are super smart, they have the answers. And my job is to create space in which we can draw those out. That has hugely helped my leadership, I think.
That's amazing. I think that's exactly like what Millie Campbell trained us to do. I mean, basically be able to see, have a clear picture about what the objective, and then so we're working as a team.
Yes.
Ask people, ask help, trust your talents, and then working that step by step clearly with the mission, always aligned.
Always at the centre.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Helen, today for sharing with us. And then, so if people watching, and then so hopefully they can apply they spread the words out. And there's a worldwide cancer research organization here in the UK. They're taking all applicants from the scientists all over the world, and may they luck to get the funds. And then let's conquer the cancer together.
Thank you.